He was not born with a name that echoed in marble halls or rang across the Senate floor. No silver cradle, no patrician toga. His first cradle was the dust of Thrace, and his first name was likely whispered by wolves before men spoke it. They called him Spartacus, but only later, after blood had dried and iron had bent. Before that, he was just another shadow on the edge of empire, a shepherd, perhaps, a soldier, then a deserter, captured, shackled, and sold. Rome saw him not as a man, but as a body, strong, useful, replaceable, in the depths of Capua, where gladiators were trained like bulls to gore and die. He found himself among killers, some broken, some eager, most silent. They were fed like cattle and praised like beasts. They slept behind iron gates. The sun they saw was not freedom, but rehearsal. Each morning, they practiced how to fall, and each evening, they drank just enough wine to forget what tomorrow promised. Spartacus said little. He watched. He learned. He waited. He was not the biggest, not the loudest, but there was something coiled behind his eyes, something Roman trainers could not tame. One night, a blade was found hidden in a kitchen, then another. Then whispers turned into nods, and nods into plans, and one early morning, while the guards still dreamed of coin and wine, the gates of the gladiator barracks were opened not with keys, but with blood. 70 men stormed out, barefoot, half naked, armed with kitchen knives, hammers, broken bits of chain. They raided the villa, took real weapons, real food, real purpose, and they fled into the hills of Vesuvius not to hide, but to choose the next move. Rome laughed at first. A band of runaway slaves. How quaint. Send a local militia, they said. Clean them out before supper. But those militiamen did not return. Not whole. The slaves had learned well. How to move as one. How to fight like men who could not afford to lose. Others heard of them. Other slaves, miners, field hands, house servants. Some escaped in the dark. Some killed their masters. Some walked for days with nothing but faith that someone, anyone, was finally saying no. The hills filled. What began with 70 became hundreds, then thousands. Spartacus, once a ghost in chains, now stood before an army, not of citizens, not of legions, but of fire and desperation. The mountain gave them time to breathe, to regroup, to remember how to be more than property. There were no walls there, only the wind and ash of Vesuvius, the volcano slumbering above them like some old god with eyes closed. Rome had hoped they would scatter, that fear would break them. But Spartacus did not scatter. He trained, not with drills and horns, but with firewood shaped into spears, with marches that went until the stars bled out, with discipline pulled not from ambition, but necessity. They learned not how to be soldiers. They learned how to be wolves. Rome sent another force, stronger, better armed, more certain. They surrounded the mountain, watched the passes, blocked the paths, waited for hunger to do the killing. But Spartacus did not climb down the way Rome expected. He used vines, built ropes, lowered his men down the steep face of the cliff like shadows slipping into the night. They emerged behind the Romans, and they did not ask for mercy. The army broke, their supplies taken, their pride shattered, and the news spread faster than any messenger. Spartacus had outwitted Rome. Now they came in droves, not just slaves, but outlaws, disgraced soldiers, farmers with debts, shepherds who hated their tax collectors, the poor, the angry, the forgotten. His numbers swelled 10,000, then 20, then more. He fed them on Roman storehouses, clothed them in Roman dead. His army was a ghost in the hills, striking where Rome was weakest, then vanishing. They had no city, no senate, but they had momentum. And in the winter cold, it was that momentum that kept them warm. Some begged Spartacus to march on Rome directly. End it. Take the city. Tear down the walls that once held them in chains. But he did not. Not yet. Perhaps he knew what it meant. That victory would not mean freedom, only a new prison. This time one with a crown. Others whispered that he wanted something simpler. Not conquest, not revenge, just a path home. Back to Thrace, back to a land without chains. And so they turned south, toward the sea, toward Sicily, toward ships that might carry them to something like peace. But Rome had seen enough. The Senate, once dismissive, now watched with bloodshot eyes. These were not riots. This was war, and Rome would not allow the world to see it bleed. The sea was never far. Spartacus could smell it at night, salt in the wind. The hint of something vast and unwatched. He knew that beyond the water lay Thrace, or at least what remained of it. He did not dream of cities. He dreamed of silence, of sheep grazing, of a sky that didn't hang heavy with smoke. He made deals with pirates, promises of gold, of loot, of passage, and for a moment, it seemed real. Ships were to come. The coast was close. The men were ready. And then nothing. No sails, no signal, no salvation. The pirates had taken the gold and vanished. Spartacus did not curse them. He had expected betrayal. It was the language of empire. His men did not take it so well. They had followed him through storms and slaughter. Some had buried sons in Roman soil. They wanted a finish, glory, or vengeance, or both. To turn away now felt like cowardice. And still, he held them together, not with speeches, but with presence. He was always at the front, always in the cold. He shared their food, their wounds, their doubt. He never built himself a throne, but Rome built one for him, a throne of fear. Senators spoke his name like a ghost. Mothers warned their children in whispers, and so they summoned someone they trusted to end him, Marcus Licinius Crassus, richer than kings, ambitious as fire, cold as coin. Crassus did not underestimate Spartacus. He did not send militias. He built walls, literal walls, across Italy, trapped Spartacus in the southern tip like a fox in a burning den. He starved them, denied them battle, cut off every path north, every path home. Spartacus saw it. He saw the noose, and he broke it, or tried to. They charged. The slaves, the freedmen, the outlaws, through blood and dust, through sharpened stakes and Roman discipline. They broke lines, tore through camps, and some escaped. Not many. Enough. Enough to keep going. Enough to believe. But the tide had turned. The sea was gone. The hope was thin. The empire had woken. It would not sleep again until the last body fell. The land grew quieter, as if even the birds held their breath. The fields were dry, the trees stripped, the roads soaked not with rain, but with dread. Spartacus stood at the edge of it all, not a hero, not a villain, just a man holding the weight of thousands on shoulders never meant for kingship. He looked at what was left, broken sandals, torn cloaks, eyes that had seen too much. Some were still boys. Some had grown old in just 2 winters. He knew what Crassus was building, not just a trap, but a message. This was not war. It was theater. and Rome was the audience. A final act had to be written. So Spartacus gathered his men. No trumpet, no marble steps, just firelight and silence. And he spoke not of glory, not of gods, but of choice. He told them they could leave. Try to hide. Live one more day. But he would ride to face Crassus, not because he thought he would win, but because they deserved a death that Rome could not twist into mockery. He would not kneel. He would not beg. And they, in turn, would not be forgotten. Some left that night. Not many. Most stayed. They dug shallow trenches, sharpened sticks, said quiet goodbyes. The morning came cold and bright, a sky too blue for what it would witness. Crassus had lined his men in layers, shields glittering, spears like 1,000 silver teeth, and across from them, a people who had once been property, now stood shoulder to shoulder, shaking but upright. Spartacus mounted a horse, not armored, not crowned, just bare-chested, holding a sword older than memory. He rode the line once, said nothing, just met their eyes, then turned and charged. The clash was thunder, not from the sky, but from bone on iron, rage against order. Spartacus cut through the first rank, through the second. His men roared behind him. Some fell, most fell, but they did not break. Spartacus reached the center, reached Crassus's standard. He lifted his sword, then vanished beneath a tide of spears. His body was never found, or if it was, no one claimed it. Crassus had the battlefield, but not the name. The battle had ended, but the punishment was only beginning. Crassus, ever the calculating mind behind the Roman mask, knew that victory was not enough. It had to be remembered, etched in terror. He captured the survivors, 6,000 of them. Not soldiers, not rebels, just men with calloused hands, ragged breath, eyes hollowed by the dream of something better. He did not sentence them in court. He did not listen to pleas. He ordered a line, a straight line, from the fields of defeat to the gates of Rome, along the Appian Way, one crucifix every 40 paces, wooden poles, rough nails, rope, 6,000, lined like broken fence posts beneath the Italian sun. Their screams were brief, their silence longer. Travelers passed them, shielding their children's eyes. Senators counted them. Merchants sold fruit beneath their shadows. Rome called it justice. The world called it a warning. Crassus returned to the city not with parades, but with unease. He had killed the body of the rebellion, but not its ghost. Whispers remained. In kitchens, in vineyards, in alleyways behind marble. Spartacus. The name itself became a curse and a prayer. A man with no grave, but 1,000 legends. Some claimed he lived, disguised, waiting. Others said he rose with every thunderstorm. Rome tried to erase him, but history does not obey orders. In time, Crassus would fall. His ambition would drown in the sands of Parthia. His army annihilated. His head used in foreign theater. But Spartacus would rise. Again and again. Not in flesh, but in memory. He became the name shouted in every slave revolt that followed. The dream on the lips of every chained man who looked up at the stars and whispered, "I was not born to kneel." Rome feared him, not for what he did, but for what he made others believe might be possible. Years passed. The Appian Way weathered wind and time. The crosses rotted, the ropes loosened, bones fell into dust, and yet the story remained not in records, but in breath, in the way old women paused when they passed that road, in how children, even years later, dared each other to walk alone down its quiet length. Spartacus had no temple, no statue, but his shrine was in defiance. In every life that remembered his was once not allowed to live freely. Rome had many emperors, many triumphs, but very few names that survived the way his did. He was never crowned, never welcomed, never forgiven. But he was remembered, not for cruelty, not for conquest, but for standing up once and refusing to kneel. Historians would argue, was he a hero, a rebel, a fool? But none could deny the wound he left behind, not in Rome's body, but in its belief that the world must remain as it is, that those born in chains should die in silence, because after Spartacus, that silence was broken. Other rebellions came, most failed, but each time, his name reappeared, as if history itself refused to forget the taste of his fire. And now, as you lie still beneath your own quiet sky, centuries away, you carry that ember too, because even in sleep, there are truths that flicker, and the greatest among them is this, that no man is born a slave, and no empire, no matter how mighty, can kill a name once it has taken root in the hearts of the free.